And there's fiber cereal too.
We'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this evening's meeting. This is the 18th meeting of the Board of Directors during calendar year 2024. Welcome to each of you. We'll begin with an invocation by Pastor Matt Scully of Trinity Church, and I'll lead the pledge. All rise.
Thank you all for the invitation to pray with you tonight. If we could bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening thanking you for your grace, for your mercy, and the way that you have watched over us in this city for all these years. God, I thank you for the men and the women who are standing before us now that have to make the hard decisions over our community. From the richest of the rich to the poorest of the poor, Lord, they watch over our lives. God, I ask that you would grant them wisdom and grace as they make the decisions that they have to make. God, I thank you for the men and women that I see in uniform here tonight. Lord, I ask that you would bless them and watch over their lives. Thank you for the way they care for us and take care of this city. And Lord, so tonight we ask you for wisdom and guidance in all decisions that are made. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Phyllis Beard.
Present.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. At this time, we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from the consent agenda to new business? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Hearing none, I move the approval of the agenda as presented.
Very good. Got a
Second.
motion to approve, seconded by Director Webb. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. This time we'll consider approval of the minutes of the regularly held meeting on September 17, 2024. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Director Trusty.
Second.
Seconded by Director Webb. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. This is the meeting in which we hear from the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and Metro Partnership on the Economic Development Report. This evening's report will be provided by Cole McCaskill, Vice President of Economic Development. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Directors, good evening. Good to see everybody. It's Gary sends his apologies. He's at the ACT Workforce Conference in Atlanta right now, so you're stuck with his understudy. Looks like last time we reported to you was on September 10th, so I'll pick up after that on the 11th. I met with Joe Gibson, who's developing some land out in the Mid-America Industrial Park on the north side along Black Snake Road. He's calling that the North Park of Mid-America Boulevard. Mid-America Industrial Park. He's already brought in 3 new businesses out there. He's got some kind of commercial, industrial flex spaces, and about 4 or so more acres that he can build on. We talked about some commercial and industrial needs for the future out in that area. That same day, I also talked with a California-based investor who was in town looking at some opportunities. That same day, Gary and I met with Don Rowlett at the airport, some folks from the college, folks from the city to talk about potentially bringing a airplane mechanic school to Hot Springs very early on in those discussions. That same day, the new Burlington store at Fairgrounds Crossing opened. The next day, it was the headline, the federal government appropriated $2.75 million for security and fire protection at the Army-Navy Hospital. That day, Chairman Vince Signorelli led our October Partnership Board of Directors meeting. That same day, Gary and I met with Kendall Thornton, who's the new Entergy Public Affairs rep, about some of the ways we can work together on economic development initiatives in Garland County. That same day, I met with AEDC to talk about a new economic development program, and I met with a downtown investor who's working on a big new project. Since we've last reported, I've had 2 calls with the Arkansas Broadband Leaders Group. The week of September 15th, Gary attended the International Economic Development Council meeting in Denver, Colorado, with over 1,500 economic development professionals. On September 17th, John Duncan from the Chamber team traveled to Little Rock to attend the Arkansas Business Best Places to Work in Arkansas lunch event to support some Hot Springs businesses that were finalists at that for that initiative. Those were Daniel Heaton Air, CHI St. Vincent, Health Star Physicians, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Reliance Bank, Ritter Communications, Southern Bank Corp., Arkansas Federal Credit Union, and Wells Co. were all finalists for the best places to work in Arkansas. On the 18th, I talked with a new business prospect about a new industrial site that just came up for sale. On the 19th, Gary and I worked on National Park College was applying for a new grant to help grow some of their initiatives out there, and we worked on that project. Also on the 19th, Gary attended the Arkansas Economic Development Foundation board meeting in Little Rock. On the 20th, Vicki, Gary, and I participated in the monthly state chamber call. On the 24th, Gary and Gary Jackson both attended the Lake Hamilton Fall Business and Industry meeting at their new campus down Adam Brown Road at Lake Hamilton School. On the 24th, I talked with AEDC about updates on an ongoing expansion project with which we're working. On the 24th, I met with the Downtown Association Board. Also on the 24th, Gary and I had an interview with AY Magazine. They're doing a feature in the November issue on some of the great things that are happening in Hot Springs, and so that'll be coming out in the November issue of AY Magazine. On the 25th, Gary attended the National Park College Board of Trustees meeting, in which it was announced that the college has 2,495 students this semester, which is a 6% increase. The average student carries a 12.4 average hour load, which is pretty good, almost full-time, and they currently have 674 students enrolled, concurrently enrolled in high school and college, which is a 16% increase over last year. On the 26th, the Chamber held its monthly board meeting at the Arlington Hotel, where afterwards the Chamber directors were toured around the property with some of the renovations that have been done in the last few years. On September 27th, Mayor McCabe and Gary Troutman spoke at Baptist Health's press conference for the new PACE program and ribbon cutting, which was out on Albert Pike Road. That's a new program that focuses on preventative care for those who are 55 and up. Also on the 27th, I helped a local manufacturer with an issue that's going to help them increase their sales. On September 28th, we hosted a quarterly trustee meeting with the Metro Partnership's largest investors. Mayor McCabe and City Manager Burrow were attendees at that meeting. And then last Friday night, the Chamber hosted a reception for Preserve Arkansas, as many folks around the state were here in Hot Springs checking out the mid-century modern architecture that I. Granger McDaniel created in Hot Springs. We were happy to host that reception, as the Chamber of Commerce building is one of his designs. On September 30th, Gary Jackson met with the local superintendents over at the Saline County Tech Center about Perkins funding. Today, I was with the State Director of Tourism and the Director of Outdoor Recreation and some other stakeholders talking about ways to grow that part of the economy in this region. Tomorrow, the Chamber is hosting its annual Scholarship Scramble, which is a golf tournament that raises money for scholarships for local children in this area. And then I'll leave you with 2 exciting new business openings. Chipotle is now having a soft opening, finally open, very exciting. And Cajun Boilers, we have a ribbon cutting set on Thursday at 10 a.m. for the much anticipated Cajun Boilers. It was a wonderful business here for many years, and we're excited to see it back open. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. McCaskill? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Cole, do you have any report on the renderings for the Majestic property? Are they-
No, I wish Scott could have been here. He was here at the meeting last month. I believe he's a little under the weather. It's the reason why he's not here today. We did reach out with him into last week and then again yesterday. I don't have any official updates. It sounds like things are getting pretty close.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. We have a couple very special presentations that I'm going to kick this off to our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrow. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. We certainly do. First, I'd like to recognize Brandon Reed. The Hot Springs Fire Department held a Swiftwater technical course as part of the department's Swiftwater rescue training in the Ouachita River on July the 20th. Hot Springs Fire Department firefighter and Swiftwater rescue member Brandon Reed noticed two children, neither wearing a life jacket, floating down the river in inner tubes towards some rapids. The elder child had jumped out of the tube before they reached the rapids. However, the tube carrying the younger child flipped. The elder child lost their grip on the other child as the current took the smaller one into the rapids. The strength of the current forced the child underwater and further downstream. Without hesitation, firefighter Reed jumped into action, utilizing his Swiftwater tactics he's learned, and saved that child. Really a heroic event. We're very fortunate that our firefighter Reed was on the scene when and where he was. I think God places us in places sometimes for just those kind of situations. So really a heroic, very quick thinking move by firefighter Reed, and it resulted in really saving a young child's life. So I'd like to recognize Brandon Reed. Man, just reading that gave me goosebumps. We have three other awards to discuss. Man, another just truly heroic effort by these gentlemen. On Friday, August the 9th, Engine 7 with the Hot Springs Fire Department was dispatched for a possible drowning. Once on the scene, the E7 crew, Lieutenant Kenny Talbert, driver Cameron Woods, and firefighter Landon Powers displayed impeccable patient care and assessment. A lifeguard had actually pulled the unresponsive pediatric patient from the pool prior to the fire department's arrival, and with the help of a nearby nurse were able to stimulate the patients just seconds before E7 arrived. Lieutenant Talbert and his crew showed an enormous amount of respect and compassion to the patient's parents while still providing the highest level of patient care. Once LifeNet arrived, Lieutenant Talbert orchestrated a smooth transition from the scene to the ambulance where the E7 crew further assisted. LifeNet EMT Michaela Hickson and paramedic Audrey McNeil in obtaining vitals, securing a safety device to the stretcher to specifically transport a small pediatric patient. LifeNet assumed patient care and transported the patient to a nearby high-level care hospital. Due to the early and accurate patient assessments, it led to a rapid transport to a higher level of care facility. This patient has since been released from the hospital and is going to make a full recovery. And, you know, knowing just a little bit about this one, I mean, it was a toddler, basically, that had fallen into a swimming pool. And, man, I'm just so proud of Lieutenant Talbert and Driver Woods and firefighter Powers. You guys are just really, really impeccable, the things you do each and every day, and just want to really thank you for your service and congratulate you and recognize you for this Hero Award tonight.
Bill, our firefighters are just about everywhere, it seems like. This couple weeks ago, we had a pedestrian hit in downtown Hot Springs, while the police department did an excellent job on keeping vehicular traffic flowing. The firefighters worked with LifeNet on assessing the pedestrian who had been hit, and this was a very big gentleman, and it took the firefighters, presence to be able to put the person, stand them up, and get them on the gurney and get them in the ambulance. So they respond. And in the case that some that you mentioned, they just happen to be there and jump into action. We've seen that with other city staff employees who happen to be at the right place at the right time, and we hope that we all are able to respond appropriately if the opportunity presents itself. So thank you, Bill, and for all the wonderful staff we have here at City of Hot Springs. Moving forward in our agenda, we have the city manager's report. Bill?
Well, thank you, Mayor. It's going to pale in comparison to what we just spoke about. But, we are fortunate. Many times our firefighters are the first ones on the scene. In this one, I think I read where those gentlemen on the pool drowning, they were in action within like 47 seconds and were on scene in 3.5 minutes maybe. It's remarkable. And, whether it's a traffic accident or someone's home on fire, when we can say that we're hitting those in less than 4.5 minutes, pretty much throughout the community, man, it's great. And to know that we've got the kind of skilled, trained gentlemen that are in our fire department and our police department, we're really in good hands in the city of Hot Springs and in our community. Appreciate you guys. Pro housing. The City of Hot Springs Planning and Development Department is hosting a Pathways to Removable Obstacles to Housing. It's a lot. We call it Pro Housing. It's a grant. We'll be holding a public meeting at 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, August the 3rd at the Garland County Library. That's at 1427 Malvern Avenue.
You meant October.
What did I say?
August.
It says October. I just said August.
Please don't go backwards.
It's okay.
Can you just start over?
I can. City of Hot Springs Planning and Development Department is hosting a Pathways to Removable Obstacles to Housing. It's a grant called Pro Housing. We'll have a public meeting at 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, October 3rd, at the Garland County Library, 1427 Malvern Avenue, for citizens to have a brief overview of the grant application and the opportunity to provide input. The Pro Housing Grant, funded through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, provides funding to various communities that are actively taking steps and demonstrating progress in addressing local housing barriers and an aging housing stock. The full application is available for review on the city's website, www.cityhs.net, or for more information, you can contact our long-range historic preservation planner, Lauren Adkins, at ladkins@cityhs.net, or 501-621-5520. If you go to our website, this information will be on there, and you'll be able to get in touch with Ms. Atkins. Something that I get phone calls quite often about this time of year, and that's our household hazardous waste collection. The city's Hot Springs Solid Waste Department is hosting a free household hazardous waste collection event, including a free paint exchange on October the 12th from 8 to 1 until 1 p.m. at the Garland County Fairgrounds. Household hazardous waste is considered unused or leftover household products containing chemicals that are toxic, flammable, corrosive, or reactive. I pretty much sum it up to anything you might find in your garage shelf or under a kitchen sink, you can bring to this event. It's for anyone in Garland County. This is sponsored through the Southwest Central Regional Solid Waste Management District. There'll be people from Hot Springs County coming, Garland County, all the cities in between, and then there'll be a satellite collection in Arkadelphia. So that's always been a popular event that I think one year they had a little over 300 cars coming through there. So very pleased with the turnout, and even more so that it's paid for by the Southwest Central Regional Solid Waste Management District. With police, our annual Kicking the Stigma Kickball Tournament on September 28th, the Hot Springs Police Department hosted its 4th annual Kicking the Stigma Kickball Tournament at Kimry Park. 17 teams participated, including 14 recovery teams alongside our Hot Springs Police Department, Hot Springs Fire Department, and LifeNet. Approximately 350 people attended the event, and for the first time, the fire department did not take home the championship. This year, Renew Life Center at Hidden Creek earned the bragging rights as kickball champions, and we look forward to the 5th year of that event. Appreciate everybody that took part in that. Recently, Amigo News, our local Hispanic newspaper, featured Hot Springs Police Department's Detective Jose Castaneda for Hispanic Heritage Month. They featured him to share his story as an example for young people who want to achieve their goals. Castaneda is from Kansas and has lived in Hot Springs for more than 10 years. He actually graduated Lakeside about 10 years ago and studied at a local college in criminal justice. He later had to take an online class due to the pandemic and finished his degree at the University of Fort Smith. While going to school, he worked at various restaurants. Approximately 4 years ago, he joined the Hot Springs Police Department and now is part of our SWAT team, and in March 2024 was promoted to detective in crimes against minors. So appreciate Detective Castaneda and Amigo News for spotlighting him. Always want to talk about our new hires at this opportunity. Sean Booth with Wastewater Lifts, Adrian Chavez with Intercity Transit, Stetson Horton, Utility Billing Services, Josh Lambert, Wastewater Lifts, David McIntosh, and Yance McIntosh, both Wastewater Lifts. We've had a hard time getting those positions filled. At one time, we had about 8 openings, so glad to see some of these getting filled and welcome these gentlemen. Brooks Taylor in Street, Sebastian Delano at the airport, Ryan Steiger in Fleet Services. So we welcome them to the City of Hot Springs family. A couple of promotions. Actually, we had a promotion ceremony today at the Central Fire Station. Hot Springs firefighter Eric Fryer and Solomon Trey Hicks were recently promoted. Mr. Fryer was promoted from firefighter to driver, and Mr. Hicks was promoted from driver to lieutenant. We certainly wish them well on this well-deserved promotion. Got to talk to both of them today, and really fine gentlemen. The mayor mentioned a pedestrian accident that we had just a couple of weeks ago, and we actually had one, I think, last week. We started looking at some of those numbers, and our police chief shared with me that we've had 42 pedestrian accidents since the beginning of the year. And they're not in any one area. We've had about 7 downtown, I think, but they're sporadic, and about half of those were the pedestrian fault. So, you know, we really need to pay attention, both as a driver and as a pedestrian, making sure that we're crossing in crosswalks, making sure that we're hitting the button before we cross. You know, we've all grown up learning to look both ways and maybe look both ways twice. And as drivers, this most recent one was a driver error, was the driver at fault. You know, as locals, we know when we're going through downtown that we've got to kind of watch out. We have a lot of visitors. They may be in those areas. When we're in front of Oaklawn, we kind of got to watch out. But somebody that's not from here may not know that. There were 2 fatalities. Both of those were determined to be pedestrian fault. You know, we've seen some that as you go back and you may see a video of being inattentive and talking on the cell phone and just walking out into a crosswalk, not realizing that there's still traffic coming. And we've had others that are inattentive on their phone while they're driving and driving through crosswalks. We had a pretty strong effort to make a difference in that, and really it's been throughout the year. But in addition, we've had 88 citations and warnings for both pedestrian and driver in these crosswalk violations, and some are mid-block crossings. There's one that we have there in front of Superior and Ohio Club. It gets a lot of people going back and forth. That is not a crosswalk. It's a mid-block crossing. I've been asked several times, why aren't we putting a crosswalk there? Well, that's a state highway, and we've sent several letters on different occasions to try to get one. They're denied. They're not going to approve a crosswalk in a mid-block. It's not very far though from a lighted crosswalk where we have a red light in a crossing. So I'm saying this to bring attention to the issue. We're going to be starting some additional enforcement specific on those kind of issues. Another thing that we're looking at, and the chief had sent it to me, I forwarded it on to Denny and Ron, and that's having flashers in the pavement. We don't have any of those in the city right now, but we are going to make a request to RDOT to allow us to try to use in-ground flashers as well as what we currently have to see if we can have an impact on that. But again, you know, we're only talking in the downtown area and in front of Oaklawn right now, but the majority of these things are happening in areas other than those. So it, you know, it's something that we all just have to be mindful about whether we're whether we're the driver or the pedestrian. Mayor, I'll conclude with that. And we're all working on budgets. So this time of year brings fall, deer season, and budget season. So that's basically what we're doing right now. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the one pedestrian who was coming from the city side in the area of the Waters Hotel and Ohio Club and coming over towards Superior and area. You know, we have these ornamental lights, and you know they're decorative, and they don't throw out the lights that maybe a typical street light. You know, the Park Service side of the street, their ornamental lights are not at the curb. It's really in the yards of each bathhouse entrance. You've got magnolia trees on the National Park side, and you've got these lovely trees on the city side. Again, all very nice, but blocking light. And then you have a gentleman wearing dark blue bib overalls and a black t-shirt. And he's got jet black hair and a beard. And it's dark right there at night. And he got hit by a gentleman who travels down through downtown on a regular basis, lives up in the Park Avenue area, and you know, it doesn't have to be. Yes, it's the cutout that the National Park installed on the National Park side. It has a sign. This is not a crosswalk. Well, there's probably not a corresponding sign on the other side because there's no access point or egress point from the street on that side. And but that cutout was there to assist the sanitation staff and food purveyors, delivery people, getting product onto Bathhouse Row. And before, they were having to pick it up out of their truck, haul it, put it on the sidewalk, go get another box, and it took all day to offload. So but yeah, maybe that's an attractive nuisance, as they would call it. But it is, you know, for the vendors it's great, but pedestrians see it as a shortcut. So it only takes an extra 45 to 50 seconds, maybe a minute, to get down to Mountain Street or get down to Fountain Street and cross. And I'm downtown, as many of you know, on a well, everyday basis. And I always tell the pedestrians at crosswalks, always give it a 2 count, maybe a 3 count after that little illuminated man appears, because people will run those lights. And I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose. It may be not lack of attention. It could be maybe a magnolia tree is screening. They're not from here. They don't anticipate a light. And but we always give them a 2-3 count. And by God, you know, I'm blessed that I do give it a 2-3 count, because you know, myself and a number of others wouldn't be here. So be careful downtown. We're coming up to the holiday time. Be a lot of extra foot traffic, longer store hours, and it'll be darker. It'll be dark at 5:30, so be careful. Now we'll move on to Board of Directors announcements regarding upcoming events. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to make a couple of announcements. And next Monday is the National Night Out for Police. And we'll have several activities across town in different neighborhoods, but I want to personally invite you to the District 5 National Night Out with the Hot Springs Police Department, beginning at 5 p.m. at the Chittum Event Center at 305 Forest Lakes Boulevard in the Forest Lakes subdivision. There'll be a Mexican dinner and drinks and desserts served, and we're always honored to welcome our police to our neighborhood and in District 5, and to get to know them and for the police to get to know us. So please, if you're available, you're more than welcome. Come early, enjoy the food, fellowship, provide your input, and visit and ask any questions of our police. And this is an honor and a privilege to host this annually. We've been doing this here since they began a part of this program with the Hot Springs Police Department. The second announcement is regarding our first annual Hispanic Heritage Festival. On Saturday, October 12th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Hot Springs Farmers Market at 121 Orange Street. There'll be vendors, booths from businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. Jacob Flores will be providing live music. There'll be free hot dogs and chips, sponsored by our own Hot Springs Police Department. There'll be piñatas for kids and families, and they are being sponsored by Levi Hospital. So mark this on your calendar. This is a fun event that is beginning, and last month at the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month, we had the proclamation issued here, and that special month for Hispanic Heritage runs to the 16th of October, and this festival comes in on October 12th. So that concludes my announcement, Ms. Mayor.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 3 events that I want to share with everybody. The first is also in regards to Hot Springs National Night Out, Monday, October 7th, that's next Monday, 5:30 p.m. until 6 p.m. District 4 will be hosting a National Night Out at the Hot Springs School District's Welcome Center, which is located at 702 Main Street here in Hot Springs. And I signed our district up this year to welcome Hot Springs police officers to show our appreciation and gratitude for the services they all provide to us to help protect our communities and families. On this evening, Hot Springs police officers will arrive at the Welcome Center approximately 5:30 p.m. to visit with all in attendance, to meet everyone, check on neighborhood safety, and ask if they can be of assistance to help increase safety in our communities. They will stay with us for about 30 minutes and then make their way to other stops throughout the city. So I personally want to invite all of you to attend the District 4 National Night Out, the Welcome Center of Hot Springs School District, and I look forward to seeing you all there. I want to also just thank Dr. Nahus with the Hot Springs School District for allowing District 4 to host National Night Out this year at the Welcome Center. This is a great opportunity for everyone to meet others across District 4 neighborhoods and other neighborhoods across the other districts in our city. Visit with our Hot Springs police officers, share praise for what the officers do to protect us, and also ask for further assistance if need be to help tighten up safety and security in your neighborhood. So I would just ask that you please make plans to attend this special event. I'm sorry to say we won't be having Mexican food that evening, but I will be having some snacks and drinks and refreshments for everybody. That Mexican dinner is a winner, so I'll have to step my game up next year. I might actually take off for mine right at 6 and go to Director Garcia's. Number 2 is a neighborhood watch training. The neighborhoods in and around Peters Point, Sun Bay area, just off Central, are having a formal neighborhood watch training Wednesday, October 9th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Sun Bay Resort. I'll be in attendance that evening to help facilitate this training, but the training itself will be led by Hot Springs Police Officer Omar Cervantes. It is my understanding that there are about 75 residents in this area looking to improve their neighborhood watch functions, and so I commend all of you in and around this area for joining together to help keep our community safe. I want to give special thanks to Mike Cumnock, Sun Bay Resort, and then the Hot Springs Police Department for helping to organize this training. And although the training will be intended for the Peters Point area, the meeting is open to everybody. So if you have any interest whatsoever in setting up a formal neighborhood watch for your neighborhood, or you just feel like learning more about this process, please make plans to attend this training. And if you need any further details, you can give me a call at 501-285-5467. And I'll be more than happy to help share with you any details and answer any questions that you have. The third event, Mayor, is a District 4 Town Hall meeting. That will be Thursday, October 24th. It's a busy October, at 5:30. And it will be at Oaklawn United Methodist Church, which is at 216 Higdon Ferry Road. And there'll be some more details that I'll be sharing with you at our next board meeting pertaining to what all will take place at this town hall. But I just want to share with you now the date and the time where you can get it plugged in on your calendars so that you can plan to attend. But again, the first is October 7th, National Night Out at the Welcome Center, Hot Springs School District at 5:30 p.m. The second was October 9th, Neighborhood Watch Training at Sun Bay Resort at 6 p.m. And then the third is a District 4 Town Hall meeting, October 24th at 5:30 p.m. And then last but not least, and I'm going to pass this one off to you, Mayor, because I don't think I have all the details, but I think you might. And that is for an event that is October 12th, and it involves the Arkansas Razorbacks basketball team at 4:00 p.m. at the Convention Center, where there's some activities going on where head coach John Calipari is bringing all the Razorback basketball players here to Hot Springs to do a meet and greet, and then also showcase their talents for everybody in the Hot Springs area. That's October 12th at 4. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Director Trustee, were you raising your hand earlier?
No, sir.
Okay. It was so long ago, it might have been something else.
Yeah.
Director Dobbs-Smith?
Yes. District 3 is also having maybe 3 neighborhood nights out. We're such a geographically narrow and extended district that we have 3 distinct areas. So we have, one of them will be at the Grand Avenue Methodist Church. They've agreed to open their doors for Monday's neighborhood night out, and we invite anyone else to come by. The others, I will have to announce that later. Also, one that I'm very excited about is our Diamond Lakes Master Naturalist Monarch Mania. If you did not attend that in the past, it is fabulous. Bring the kids, bring yourself. They release thousands of monarchs into the park over by Runyon Street, where the Xeriscape garden is, a butterfly garden is, and it's a wonderful thing for the kids and adults alike. It will be this Saturday at 10 a.m. on the Greenway. So I hope to see you all there. Thanks.
10 or 10:30?
Is it 10 or 10:30? 10 a.m. So it's 10 a.m. I'd get there early.
I'm looking at Sheila because I thought thought it was 10:30.
I'd get there at 10 anyway. You can see them before they release them.
All right. Very good. Director Holliday.
Thanks. I feel like we're never going to get to our business tonight. There's so much going on. But first of all, actually something that's going on right now, so if you're tuning in TV land, thank you. But when you get done with us here, you can switch over to the Garland County Library. They're doing a Justice of the Peace candidate forum right now. And so if you're interested in that, if you couldn't make it or would rather stay with us online, you can always check on that after the fact. They have it recorded. Speaking of candidate forums, next Wednesday, October 9th, there's a municipal candidate forum. Doors are at 5:30, the forum is at 6. I will be there as I am a contested seat. I'm not sure if my two fellow board mates will be there other than to say hi and to thank everyone for their future votes. But we look forward to that at the Garland County Library. District 1 also has a national night out. Karen definitely wins tonight on that one, but we'll be holding ours at, yeah, she's an old pro at it. We'll be holding the District 1 National Night Out at Emergent Arts, which is at 341A Whittington Avenue. Members of the Hot Springs Police Department will arrive at around 6 o'clock, so we ask everyone to come between 5:45 and 6:45. We'll actually be hanging out outside on kind of our new lawn type area and sidewalks there. We're really excited about that, and we'll show off our shiny new windows. As many people might know, we were one of the many victims of some pretty major vandalism recently, but PD was able to find the perpetrator and is moving forward with that, so we thank them for that. But again, that is Monday night along with all the others, 5:45 to 6:45. And I do want to remind everyone to check your voter registration. If you're not registered, the deadline to be registered to vote in this year's election is October 7th. You can download a registration form from the Arkansas Secretary of State's website. You can get one at the county clerk or the election commission, both here in town on Washita Avenue. But you can also check your voter registration to make sure you're current and you're registered in the right location online. Google Voter View Arkansas. It's a real simple form, and it will pull up your information. If it's incorrect, just get with our county clerk and they will get that corrected for you. So that's it for me.
Very good. Any other announcements? Just a closing announcement that October 15th is tax day for personal and real property tax. And if some of you are like me, you're trying to figure out, okay, now where did I put that statement? And I really don't want to go down to the tax collector's office and get a new one. Well, earlier this week, maybe it was last Friday, I think it was, I called down there and they looked it up, I gave them my updated email address, and in 3 to 5 minutes I had my statements, and of course you can write your check, put it in an envelope, and they have a drop box kind of towards the back area of the structure, just off the parking lot, or you can mail it or go and wait in line. But I plan on using the drop box here probably end of this week. So don't be late. Director Garcia?
Regarding taxes, it's also the deadline. If you have your final extension on your income taxes, they will be due then also.
Joyful.
I thought that was just the normal day everyone did.
That used to be my normal day. But the money had to be paid early by April 15th.
Right.
So, okay, let's get to the meeting. We'll move on to the consent agenda. These are of a routine nature that do not merit individual discussion, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Director Garcia made the motion. Director Trustee made the second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. Old business. We have one item under old business to consider resolution R-24-163.
Mayor, I'll read it for you.
Thank you.
Resolution R-24-163, a resolution granting a short-term residential rental license to 288 Lake Hamilton Drive in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Director Webb, Director Trustee, and a staff report will be provided by Planning and Development Director, Ms. Kathy Selman. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. This is an appeal of issuance of a short-term rental license, and I know this is sometimes confusing, so just a reminder that a yes vote on this approves issuing the license for short-term residential rental at 288 Lake Hamilton Drive. Short-term residential rental is a special use or SUP, in residential zone districts. 288 Lake Hamilton Drive, an unplatted, improved 3.15 acre property that is residentially zoned, applied for a special use permit in August of 2022. Having demonstrated compliance, SUP 22242 was granted administratively. This decision was appealed to the Board of Zoning Appeal and upheld. It was then appealed to the Board of Directors and overturned. The board's decision was appealed to Garland County Circuit Court. The court granted summary judgment in favor of the appellants, Michael and Stacy Stephen Aseur, following their judicial appeal of the Board of Directors' decision. Judge Ohm's order in number 10 on that order states in part, defendants, City of Hot Springs, are ordered to provide plaintiffs with a special use permit for the property within 10 days of the entry of this order. And the city complied with the court order and issued the SUP, special use permit. Subsequently, the owners of 288 Lake Hamilton Drive applied for a short-term residential rental license. Hot Springs Code Title 16, Chapter 10 regulates short-term residential rental, and that requires payment of a fee, inspection, and approval of a special use permit as prerequisite to application for a license. Having demonstrated compliance with those requirements, a short-term residential rental license was granted administratively. This decision was also appealed. This was an appeal to the Board of Adjustment and Appeal. In May, the Howlands at 300 Lake Hamilton Drive, along with the Harrises, Dawn, Sarah, and Jeff at 308 Lake Hamilton Drive, and Cameron and Holly Miller of 365 Lake Hamilton Drive, appealed Hot Springs short-term residential rental license number 054-284-2024, approving residential short-term rental to the owners for a single-family home at 288 Lake Hamilton Drive. There are a lot of attachments to this staff report. There's a parcel map, aerial map, photos of the area, and letters that explain the basis for the appeal. The appellants, in this case, the Howlands and Harris and Millers, alleged that the owners at 288 Lake Hamilton Drive failed to cost share or adequately cooperate to provide a privacy buffer, or that unseemly litter resulted from a sewer overflow. These are not standards for obtaining a short-term residential rental license. We have an order from Judge Ohm, again, at number 6 in that order, stating the court finds it significant that this is one house on the 3-acre lot and finds it hard to believe that this one house is going to generate a lot of traffic density issues or loud noise issues. The appellants further allege a number of activities that occurred after the issuance of the license. Those occurrences cannot possibly have affected the decision to issue the license because the license was issued before those things occurred. In conclusion, the special use permit is subject to a high level of scrutiny, and it is prerequisite, along with a city inspection report and payment of a fee, to obtaining the short-term rental license. The Honorable Judge Ralph C. Ohm ordered, as far as the limited topic of whether this property and plaintiffs should have been awarded a special use permit, the court finds that the plaintiffs have met their burden pursuant to Rule 56. The special use permit was issued by the city as ordered following another city short-term rental inspection, including the City of Hot Springs Utilities Department on that inspection date of April 23rd, 2024. That their presence was specifically to establish whether the sewer line exhibited noncompliance with performance standards in Hot Springs Code, and they observed no evidence of noncompliance on that sewer. Hot Springs Board of Adjustment and Appeal advertised their July 24th, 2024 meeting agenda, having a quorum, considered the short-term rental license application, the appeal documents, the court documents, the Board of Adjustment and Appeal record, the administrative findings, and public testimony. And at that time, the Board of Adjustment and Appeal voted 3-0. One member recused for conflict. Their vote was to approve the short-term rental license for 288 Lake Hamilton Drive. The allegations by the appellants are not related to the compliance standards to issue a short-term residential rental special use permit or license. The Hot Springs Board of Adjustment and Appeal did not err in their 3-0 findings and decision to approve the short-term rental license number 054284 2024 City of Hot Springs short-term residential rental license for 288 Lake Hamilton Drive. And that concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, you mentioned that the special use permit is a prerequisite of obtaining the license. And the order from Judge Ohm was the special use permit and it did not say license.
Right, that was not a subject of that appeal.
Right, so he made no ruling about license.
Absolutely not.
Okay. And in the process of getting your license, you have to get the special use permit. There has to be review. But doesn't there also, before the license is issued, there has to be an inspection?
Yes.
So at the appeal of a special use permit, there had not been an inspection that would be done until this was resolved.
There was an inspection at the time of the application for the special use permit. Because so much time elapsed between that application and that inspection, the applicants had another inspection performed by the city that was done both by the Planning and Development Department and also by the City Utilities Department.
But that was for this latest application.
That was for the license.
Application for license.
Yes.
But again, there was no ruling on the license by the judge. Also, this, are you aware that this house, this property, and another property share one grinder pump?
I am aware.
And are properties allowed to have more than one property on a grinder pump now?
It is my understanding that at the time that this grinder pump was installed, the policy allowed that. At this time, if these houses were to be built today, a grinder pump for each individually would be required.
And at the time that the board considered our regulations for short-term rental, I do not recall a discussion regarding these grinder pumps. And a lot of our lake properties, which were annexed into the city and not under city inspection, have multiple properties on one grinder pump that has continued to create some issues for those property owners. Is that true? Or, I know that I get a lot of, I've had complaints from these property owners, not just in this area, but these lake property owners, not just in the city, and some are in the county, but the city no longer allows connection to our sewer system if it has more than one property attached to one grinder pump. So I think that for the board, this might be something that is a possible future review as we do time to time for updates. But this was something to not considered when you have more than one property on a grinder pump because of the problems that can be coming from that. And especially some of the issues with short-term rentals when more than the number allowed people is one of the biggest exceptions we've had to some of these properties of short-term rentals obeying the regulations. Do you have copies of police report of fireworks being by people on this property renting, lighting fireworks on this property?
I don't know if I have it with me. I understand that it exists.
And do you have copies of the different police reports for loud noise and other issues for this property?
I do.
So there have been issues that one might believe give warrant to the reason the appeal was filed in the first place, even though at the time it's unknown what's going to be going on. But any absent property owner or not having people on site managing everything, we have found out through this course of short-term rentals that things do happen. And we've got it filtered down to just a very few locations, and most of the time those are absent property owners. So I'm very grateful for all of the STR owners that are managing the properties well, and we've had a lot of new ones. We've got a lot of commercial space available that people are developing, and it's great to see that, and it's great for Hot Springs. But I did have these concerns, and technically when I read this information, it was about the special use permit and not the license. And thank you.
Additional questions for Ms. Solomon? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of the questions I had, I did hear Director Garcia bring those up with you, Ms. Kathy, so I definitely won't bring those up again. But I kind of want to focus on the timeline itself as it relates to not just the special use permit, but the issuance of an STR license itself. First, when did the cap of 400 STRs for Hot Springs get set? In what year did that take place?
Oh, I cannot tell you. It was
20 or 21?
I can't answer that.
B, do you have that knowledge?
Yeah, it actually changed as we went. The last time was January 1 of 2023. It can't be greater than 400.
Would that mean that it was voted on at the end of 22 and then went into effect in January of
Yes.
23?
That
It
was the
voted on
effective
in
date.
September.
Yeah.
September of 22?
The effective date was January 1.
At the time that cap was voted on in 22, did this particular property have an SUP permit up to be processed by the Planning Commission?
It had been submitted to the Planning Department in August of 2022, so several months before the establishment of the 400 cap.
Okay.
It wasn't approved in August.
It wasn't, it was just submitted to the planning commission, but when did it officially get approved by planning commission? Would that have been in '23, or was that some? was
Well,
that-
it didn't go to planning
Or-
commission.
When was it approved, their planning department?
It was approved by the planning department. It would have been in 2022. It was then appealed to the Board of Adjustment, then went to the Board of Directors, and then it went to District Court.
Now, I think the appeal to the Board of Directors was in February of '23, but I was trying to get some timeline as to when it was approved by the planning department. Was that in
Well, it would
20
have been
in
prior.
'23? Or was that in '22?
It was in '22,
Okay.
yes.
That's all I have for now, Mayor. Thank you.
I'd like to clarify that point while we're on it,
Okay.
just so we don't get too far down the road. Your code also states that any pending appeals in connection with a special use permit shall proceed until final. So as I indicated last week, you asked the same question last week. If one has been applied for and it's in the queue and it's pending, that doesn't count toward the cap.
Yeah, I understand that part. I was just trying to make sure that the timeline does get shared at the meeting here tonight. I did bring it up at our agenda meeting, and I'm bringing it up again tonight. I think the other thought entered my head as you were speaking, B, and I want to now shift focus over to the 6 complaints that have happened over, looks like a 2-month span. What, if any, type of mitigating factors have the owners of this property that was issued an STR license, have they taken to address those complaints? Are you-
That's probably a question for the owners. I would point out that these complaints were after the issuance.
Right. So that.
They
you-
could not have been considered at the time because they had not happened.
Right. I mean, prior to the judge's order, there hadn't been any STR license issued, so none of the activity for STR regulations were even happening at this property. But once the SUP was ordered by the judge and the STR license was granted, which was in, April of this year, right? Between the months of May and July is when these 6 complaints took place over those 2
Yes.
months. And a few, if not most, of the complaints that took place within these 2 months were areas of concern that the property owners nearby were sharing as a part of their appeal. And again, not to say, and nothing can be predicted, or nobody can read what's going to happen in the future except the Lord Almighty. So the judge had no vision that this would happen, but it does need to be stated that those concerns of the property owner, which were shared at the time of the appeal on the SUP, did come to life after the SUP was granted to the owners at 288 Lake Hamilton, and did happen not once, not twice, but 6 different times over the span of 2 months. Can you speak to the issues with the dog? Were anybody injured with the dogs on this
I am
complaint?
unaware of any dog-related injury with regard to 288 Lake Hamilton
Okay.
Drive.
I was going to bring up some questions as it relates to the $932.50, but that might be a question to bring up later on as those that signed up to speak get up to the stand. So I will stop there. Thank you, Ms. Kathy.
Okay, you're welcome.
Other board members with questions? Ms. Selman, I have a couple, or maybe only one. Once a special use permit is issued, what would be the disqualifying factors to move from a special use permit to a STR license? Has that occurred?
No. The ordinance, the short-term rental ordinance, as I recall, does allow for consideration of performance at the site in deciding whether to issue a license, but no evidence of short-term rental type violations was provided prior to the issuance of the license. The code talks about the city manager or his designee, in this case the planning department, taking that into consideration. There have been complaints, and I don't want to sound like a wise guy here, but not all complaints are valid, and not all complaints are warranted, or, in this case, related to whether a license may be issued. The code is very clear on what those standards are, and the planning department followed those standards. There was a special use permit, there was an inspection, the fee was paid, and the requirements to issue that license were then met. Yes, there was a complaint from the Howlands that they wanted the owners of 288 Lake Hamilton Drive to pay $932 as their, they called it their share of a repair to a sewer line. That is a matter between the two property owners. It is not a standard for issuing a short-term rental license. So were there complaints? There have been complaints. Are they complaints that relate to whether a license can be issued or not issued? No, they are not. Then more complaints came after the license was issued as support for an appeal saying you shouldn't have issued a license.
Let me pause you there and thank you, because what I'm trying to just determine here, and within our ordinance for short-term rentals, we have a special use permit that's issued. In order to get a special use permit, what has to be demonstrated?
You have to have an inspection, you have to pay a fee, you have to make application, and those things were done.
Okay, so at that point, they're issued an SUP.
Yes, after being told, after numerous appeals to the Board of Adjustment, to the Board of Directors, and then to the court.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about
Yeah.
this case. I'm just talking about a regular case.
In a regular case, yes.
SUP is issued, and then what turns it from an SUP into a permit?
The application, payment of a fee.
Okay. So basically, once they did the SUP, satisfied that, inspections and all that, it's just an administrative thing of getting the permit of a inspection and then a fee paid.
Yes, that's true.
All right. Director
I
Garcia?
have a piggyback question on that because not related to this issue. But I've had property owners in my district that after they got the special use permit, I don't know if the inspection was done after that or what happened, but they had to do some more work, and I don't know if it was due to the volumes that were coming in at that time, but when I followed up for them, it was things like windows or, not having the right
Escape
ways.
windows.
Yes. No closets where they were, wanting it to be another bedroom for the number of people they housing, and some had to do some work to meet the requirements. So they had to do some things after they had their special use permit. So I'm getting different stories about that it's just an administrative issue that it automatically goes into it, because I don't think all the inspections were performed back in '22 before the SUPs or something was a variance into the normal process. Because I called, the coordinator here and followed up and what other staff told me. And, then they understood, because people were trying to have more people living in some of them, and they didn't really qualify. So, and I was thinking someone from the fire department had done some of these, but I don't recall all the detailed history right now. But I know that I had property owners in my district that had called me about that.
The procedure should be that you start off to apply for the special use permit. The special use permit should not be issued if there are outstanding health and safety violations.
But until there's an inspection, they don't know if there are or not. I'm just
Yes.
saying, I know, maybe because of volume, because I know some things went hot and heavy for a while, trying to get everything done. I'm just saying, I don't think I can say that every SUP automatically becomes a license.
They do not automatically become a license.
Oh, well, I misunderstood. It sounded like it was just an administrative thing to get the fee and it's issued, but I know there were some that weren't issued until some other things were done at their property.
I'd be happy to look into that for you.
No, I'm just trying to clarify my understanding and what I understood the mayor was asking. It's not automatic.
The license,
The license isn't automatic.
it is not automatic. There is an application, there is a fee. And you must have in hand a special use permit
Yeah.
to apply for the license.
Yeah, between the special use permit and the license, yes.
And in order to get a special use permit, you had to have an inspection.
Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to get at, is the timing of things. Because I remember going online at one time and looking at this when we first rolled it out, and you couldn't get the application for a license without having, you
You
had
have
to
to
have the
enter
inspection.
the special use permit number to apply for an application
And you
for
had
the,
to have,
for the
and
license.
you had to have the inspection before that.
Yes, and you have to make all of your corrections
Yeah.
and be found compliant with the code before you get the special use permit.
Very good.
So we did not have any instances in all of the 425 residentials that had to have additional inspections.
Oh, we had multiples.
I mean,
Numerous,
but-
many. This just wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just saying,
So
just
Kathy,
saying.
if they failed the inspection, they weren't issued an SUP.
They could not get an SUP.
And they would have to take corrective action, and then.
They had a reinspection.
Reinspection.
Right.
If passed, they could get a SUP and
Right.
then continue the process.
And
Right.
for example, some people who wanted an occupancy load of X weren't able to get that occupancy load because the bedroom that they were calling a bedroom did not have proper ingress and egress, or a closet.
right.
And so
That's
they
the
didn't
questions I
get the
got.
number they wanted. If they wanted the larger number, they had to make those corrective adjustments. Some examples of those were in condominiums where they needed a window, but the POA wouldn't let them put the window in because it wouldn't be conforming with the other buildings. So they're stuck with the number they've got. So yeah, the inspections played a major role in all applications. So many took a long time to get there.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Miss Kathy, on Lake Hamilton Drive, about how many homes are on that drive? Do you have that number off
How
the top
many
of your head?
homes? No, I
No.
don't have that number.
Is the data that's being shared with us correct when it states that as of the end of about 2023, On Lake Hamilton Drive, there are about 46 STRs, 31 of those being condos, 15 residential, and 32 of those are within close proximity of the property
That sounds
being
about
discussed
right.
today. Okay, thank you. That's about 70%, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a number of people who have signed up to speak on this matter. We'll begin with Mr. Jonathan Martin. Please come forward and state your name, address, and welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Martin. I'm the attorney for the property owners and the appellees in this case. My office address is 1401 Malvern Avenue. And first off, I appreciate you taking the time to entertain this resolution and for thoughtfully reviewing the same. There are a couple of factual things I'd like to clear up. First off, Director Garcia, the issue with the grinder pumps, they're actually separate grinder pumps for both of these properties. What they share is a sewer line that goes up to the sewer main. So each house does have their own grinder pump. That's been consistent in all of the inspection and plumbing reports. So that's one thing. Second, Director Webb, I did have in my file a copy of the agenda from the original appeal. And that original appeal from the initial approval of the SUP was back in, the BZA heard that in November of 22. So that was issued actually back in October of 22, or possibly even earlier is my understanding on when the SUP was originally approved by planning. Next, I'd like to, I think Director Selman has done an artful job of kind of explaining the scope of this. With respect to the SUP, that is no longer in question. A lot of the allegations, which I would like to also say are unsubstantiated at this point, they're merely allegations, they're not facts, were things that could have been considered during the special use permit process. Once that has been issued, the requirements per the code are that you file an application with a fee, that you have a satisfactory inspection, and that you have your SUP in hand to get that business license. My client has complied with all of those. And truthfully, that's the only question that's here in front of the board today, is whether my clients have complied with code with respect to the issuance of the license. And they have. I understand that short-term rentals are a hot button issue and it's hotly contested on both sides. There are people that are in favor of it. There are people that are against it. I understand that this can affect housing availability in Hot Springs. This is not one of those properties. This is a luxury property on Lake Hamilton that sits on over 3 acres. It's not one that's going to be in the normal pool for normal housing in Hot Springs. This is also, I believe, an opportunity that the appellants are trying to take to confuse the facts. These allegations don't have anything to do with this license. And I would like to point out that many of the complaints that have been filed were not by normal members of the public. They were filed by the appellants. They've complained when the trash can sat out too long. They've complained when a dog got loose on the property, which I'll let my client speak to that, but that was their dog. This was not a short-term license issue. That was their family pet that got off the leash for a few minutes and ran around and then came back. Honestly, I believe that the hounds would probably complain about anything, regardless of how trivial, because they simply just don't want this next door to their property. As an additional point, with respect to the sewer repair, I'd like to point out, and the board probably doesn't have this in your packet, but back during the Board of Appeal, or Board of Adjustments and Appeal process back in May, the Howlands submitted a letter as part of that packet to my clients, in which he says in his letter, had I known we were on a shared sewer line, I would have first contacted you so we could agree in advance of choosing the contractor and amount. Once I discovered it was shared, I proceeded to have the line repaired. The Howlands didn't consult my clients. They didn't tell them that there was a problem with the sewer line until after it was done. They went and did their own repair to a sewer line that sits on their property and then sent my clients a bill. Even though that may be an issue with respect to neighbors, and it may be a problem with respect to their neighborly relationship, this is not something that's relevant to whether the business license should have issued when it was issued by the city. With that, I'd like to turn over my portion to Stacy Stephen Sawyer, my client, who's one of the property owners, to address some of the other allegations individually. But in closing, I would like to reiterate to the board that your scope here tonight is to determine whether my client met the code requirements, which were that they had a special use permit, they filed an application and paid the fee, and whether their inspections were satisfactory, and they were on all counts. So I'd encourage you to vote yes for the resolution and let my clients keep their business license, which they already have at this point. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a
Oh.
question for him.
Mr. Martin? Yeah, questions of Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Director Garcia?
And I'm not saying that this specifically pertains to the decision-making, but you made a comment, because the City of Hot Springs has a goal for housing, and you made a comment that this would have nothing to do that because it's a luxury home. However, from the National League of Cities, we have reports that says regardless if it's a high-end housing, that in these type neighborhoods as well, the short-term rentals has impeded further development of higher-end housing in those neighborhoods. It's not just the loss, it's a loss of investment into Hot Springs, as well as losing the more affordable housing. It impacts both ends. And I did have a question about, but if the property owner's here, I can ask them if you are aware, during this time before the license, not obtaining a license, did this property get rented out for less than 30 days at a time?
No, it did not. My clients did rent the property long-term, over 30 days. Typically, this property, and I'll let her answer it more specifically, but this was used for workers such as travel nurses that would live in the property for several months at a time. This was not a vacation rental, and for the most part has still not been like a weekend vacation rental of this property. They've fully vet their tenants. They've got a process for that. They've got on-site, local, not on-site because it's a house, but they have management that's here that can respond to problems and questions. So they are very diligent owners. And Director Garcia, back to your comment regarding the development, Lake Hamilton Drive, for the most part, is fully developed. There's not going to be any additional development on Lake Hamilton Drive, except in very small pockets. So I don't see how that this property, which is a 3-acre property, unless it decides to redevelop, is going to affect available housing on Lake Hamilton Drive. That's an old part of town on the lake, and really it's pretty well set. There are a few vacant properties that would be eligible for development, but this is not one of them.
There is some that are being looked at on Lake Hamilton Drive, but it's also all of the the smaller streets. All of that was annexed in from the county and some of those streets, but it's on other streets as well in that general neighborhood area on the lake. That's what I was referring to.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any further questions of Mr. Martin? Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll, since Mr. Martin referenced Stacy Stephen Ashauer, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Stacy Stephen Asoya.
Stacy, can you just slide one? There you go.
Okay. And I live at 301 Parker Point in Hot Springs. I don't know what district. I'm outside the city limits now, I think. I wanted to speak specifically to Karen Garcia on the point that I've lived in Hot Springs for 50 years. I've lived on Lake Hamilton since 1974. This is my home. We are not absent owners. We are there every week. Mr. Martin did mention that we do have 2 full-time property managers that manage this property and others. This is the only one that we've ever had any issues with. And it's just specifically the one neighbor who doesn't want a short-term rental, and we acknowledge that. But we've also done things to try to make amends with the neighbors, please them, and I can kind of share with you some of those things. This is the first time that I have spoke out during the appeals process, which it has been a long process. I want to share the more personal side of 288 Drive appeals. My husband and I have stood by while the Highlands have presented a negative picture of us as people and property owners. We've heard them bring up the same issues of them having a stolen boat. Their boat was stolen when we lived there as owners. They were asleep, we were asleep. It happens. We've had things stolen there too. But that's one thing that they brought up. The dog's not on the leash. The 2 documented dates that are listed in the appeals were the tenant, it was a small 14-year-old blind dog that was a guest from June 15th to July 15th, so that 30-day plus. So it was not a short-term rental issue. The other dog was mine, who lived there for 8 years. And we were at the house celebrating my son's graduation, and when everybody came, she got excited and she ran around. She did the same little loop that she always does. She didn't hurt anyone. She's an Irish setter. She ran the loop and she ran right back to us. It's funny that the complaint mentioned Don Harris was really concerned about dogs. I had stopped multiple times and helped his wife, who was an elderly woman, chase their little dogs back to their house because dogs get out. That's what neighbors do, is we help them when they do. The Howlands had never complained about our dog before. In fact, when we would call her back, they would say, I quote, "She's fine. We love her," when we lived there. We have done some things to try to help the situation. We've planted $1,400 worth of bushes as a privacy border. One of the Howlands things that they were concerned about was the property didn't have borders. It was open to the view. So we planted some nice bushes. They even made comment that they appreciated the type of bush that we had chosen and that they approved on it. We didn't send them a bill. We didn't ask for half, even though it was $1,400. We just did that so that it might offer some privacy for our guests and for the neighbors. I want to point out about the sewer line that was mentioned. The sewer line break was on their property, and it was not while the house was issued as a short-term rental. So it has nothing to do with it.
Ms. Hasshauer, can you kind of give a summary statement, please?
I'd like to read a letter from one of the guests that we've had there. And this is relevant in sharing our community with guests who are moving into the area or staying here. It says, we are a family of 4 and relocating from Texas to Arkansas. We wanted to locate a place that was elite in listing and location and offered us a sense of vacation on the lake while we are waiting our home to be completed. We enjoyed the quiet neighborhood and were thrilled to enjoy so much lakeshore and scenic views. We had plans to rent a boat and swim with our daughters off the dock. However, shortly after we arrived, we were shocked to notice that the neighbor to the left of the property was filming our every move. It was more than just a standstill property camera, but more a tracking camera that captured us as soon as we stepped outside to enjoy the deck. It was very obvious that the camera was set up to monitor the rental property, not his or her own property. The most disturbing part was the camera would follow you no matter where you were on the rental property, which further and more concerning was the invasion of privacy for our daughters who were trying to enjoy the property as well. This was unacceptable, and to be noted that the invasive neighbor hindered our enjoyment of the property and left us feeling violated. It must be frustrating for the owners of 288 Lake Hamilton to have to deal with such a neighbor, impeding the approved right for them to have others enjoy such an elite property for people visiting Hot Springs. The property is unique and offers the luxury experience for the higher class renter. Maintaining higher caliber VRBO rentals like Lake Hamilton Drive is crucial for a city to attract and retain visitors. It enhances their overall experience, boosts local tourism, revenue, and elevates the city's reputation as a premier travel destination. And then signed, sincerely, previous renter of the property, 288 Lake Hamilton Drive.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
I have a question.
Let's address some questions. Director Garcia, do you have a
Sure.
question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to let you know I have no negative view of you or your family. I mean, you're a fine lady, and you have a very nice property. So the inquiries are making sure that I have all the information I need when I go to make decisions. And you mentioned your other properties that, are those properties in the city limits?
They are not.
So this is the only property you have in the city limits, and your other properties are in the county, outside the city limits?
The other short-term rentals are
The
outside.
other short-term
Yes.
rentals?
We have other property that is inside the city.
But they're long-term rentals?
businesses.
They're businesses. So your short-term rentals are outside the city limits, and this is the one that you have within the city
That's
limits?
correct.
So, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions of the property owner? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sean Singh. I think he left. Is he there? Then we'll move on to Charles Howland. Mr. Howland, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
My name is Charles Howland. I live at 300 Lake Hamilton Drive, and I am in Karen Garcia's district. First of all, since it was just brought up about the camera, actually I had the camera installed before they started renting that property out, either on a monthly basis or on an STR. And the reason I had it pointed down the line, down the seawall, was because we've had incursions, from other, from the condos and sometimes from the resort over there, people coming across, and, we've had a boat, stolen, and so I was just watching the seawall line. It's an advanced camera. It actually does tracking. She sent me a letter, or they sent me a letter, and I changed the perspective of it so it would not, pick up anybody else. I had it just pointed, on my property. But I was trying to do them a favor and protect and record, what goes on down the seawall. So I responded and changed that. So, it wasn't a big deal. I think the thing about it is that, we're talking about, well, this process is, they followed the process and all that, but, why are we here? I mean, the attorney, wants you to think that, well, we're just going to check the boxes again, the same way, and therefore you can't consider anything else. Well, to me, it's like, okay, well, the judge issued his ruling, fine, we're going to the next step. Obviously, the process says we can, actually do, this appeal process, so I think it's fair game on all these different points here that we're going to bring up. And, the shared sewer line, how would you like to have to subsidize a business that's next door to you, and they're making money, and you're making the sewer line repairs, and we're sharing it, and they don't want to participate in that? I think that's wrong. It's just wrong. I think, to me, it goes against the welfare and morals. If you look at the ordinances, what they're trying to, what the STR is, ordinance is about, is trying to protect, the neighborhoods, regarding those things. And, the dogs, yeah, well, yeah, we did let their dog run on our property. We didn't care. It's when they're living there, okay? But now things have changed, I look at that dog a little bit differently now, So, they really kind of, forced us to act, in a different way than we did before, because now we're not really neighbors, Yeah, but, so we don't look at like that. And the other problem with the dogs is that, they're functioning as an STR. As of, whenever they got the SUP and all that, they started functioning as that. And so the STR dogs come over, and, it becomes a problem and a concern. There's no fence requirements. Anyway, I think that's the main points I wanted to
Is
make.
there any questions of Mr. Howland? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Holland, how long have you lived your current residence?
Since April of 2020.
Okay. Did you live in Hot Springs prior to that?
Yes, I have,
Okay. What do you feel like the character of your neighborhood is?
The character of it?
Yeah, as it stands right now.
I think, obviously, it's where, people come and have a boat, boating and, lake activities and stuff. As far as the character of the street, I think that's one of my concerns is that, STR's changed the neighborhood and, there's less people to watch. We talked tonight about all the announcements about, doing neighborhood, watch training and things like that. Well, I made this point before, where are the watchers? When you're doing short-term rentals, it's different if it's a month-to-month because you get to actually know people, and we've met some of these folks that they do on a monthly basis, and that works out good. But the short-term, it's just, we got a bunch of them in the condos, and we have a bunch of them, on the street, and so it's kind of hard to have a neighborhood watch function.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the, thank you. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak on this that failed to have the opportunity to sign up? Thank you. Discussion amongst directors?
I think we've had
Director
a lot
Garcia?
of, I think my questions and comments, there's been a lot of discussion already.
Yeah. I'll just say from my standpoint, and I didn't go back and look at the minutes how I voted previously. I probably voted against the SUP. My line of questioning was to try to, of Ms. Selman, was to try to again, make sure I understood the process and the process was verbalized, that the real getting the SUP had a lot of steps to it, and those processes have been taken care of, and then we denied it, went to the court system. The court system felt we had erred and directed us to, within 10 days, to issue the SUP. So, and then from that point, it's, I guess, basically a check and the application, and they're off and running. So, we don't have a whole lot of wiggle room on these at this time. So that's kind of the way I assess where we're at today. Any other comments or questions from the board members, or anything you want to ask Bill or Kathy?
I think we've asked.
Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
No.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
No.
Garcia.
No.
Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. This was a resolution, is adopted. Resolution's adopted. Moving on to new business, we have two final action items. One is to consider resolution R-24-176, and ask city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-24-176, a resolution approving a budget transfer from the general fund to the fire department capital building and improvements account for architectural design services for the Hot Springs Fire Department. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, second by Director Garcia. And our staff report will be provided by Hot Springs Fire Chief Ed Davis. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, directors. So the fire department comes for you tonight, and we're asking you to do a budget allocation of $208,000 to cover the cost of fire station architectural design services. In your May 7th, 2024 board meeting, you approved Resolution 10433. It awarded architectural services for the construction of the fire station and the training building there on Vernell Street to Craft and Tull. During the interim period, Craft and Toll Associates has worked diligently, and they've completed approximately 50% of the design phase work on the fire station project. We made an initial payment of $46,000 to Craft and Toll to start the process of planning. And based upon the initial estimate of $254,000 for architectural services, a budget amendment totaling $208,000, we required to cover the cost incurred to complete the design phase of the project. $208,000 will need to be transferred from general fund account 0013130, reserved by the board, to the fire department capital budget line of 22241615803 buildings and improvements.
Any questions of Chief Davis? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, do you have a committee that is working on the design with them? I
Yes,
mean, so of other firefighters along with you?
Yes, ma'am. And so what we have is Tom Broughton's leading that committee. Tom's in the back of the room. And so I give them a lot of independence on, because I could come up with a lot of different ideas on what a fire station should be, but I'm not going to live in the thing. I've got, 3 years left at most. So I'm letting the firefighters make decisions about environmental issues. In other words, like what it will look like, what their bedroom should look like, those kind of things. What I'm more concerned with is cancer prevention and their safety. And so, that's the reason why we're putting, for lack of a better term, air spaces in between the hot zone and the cold zone. Those are warm zones. Doing what we can do to separate the HVAC out, and also to put filtration systems in there. Do those things that are necessary that'll keep carcinogens and bloodborne pathogens and things like that out of their living space. We're also doing things economically to make the fire station as cheap as possible. Really, we're going with polished concrete on the floors. We're doing different things to make sure that we're stretching the budget as much as possible. We're going to keep it architecturally pleasing. And it will be a statement building. It will match the area in the community, and it will certainly enhance the other buildings around it. But we're going to try and do that as cheaply as possible.
Well, I'm very excited to see this come to fruition, so I'm excited. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Me as well.
Chief, these plans will bring us actually construction drawings as well, is that correct?
Yes, sir, they will. They're keeping the timeline. They were supposed to have 50% of the drawings completed by the 29th of October. They actually had those completed by the 13th. They're working on the second half of them now. We should actually see completed plans by the end of the month of October.
So any other questions of Chief? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We did not have anybody sign up to speak on this. Did anybody in the audience want to speak on this? Seeing none, discussion amongst directors.
Mayor.
Director Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, the $46,000 that we've tendered to Crafton and Toll, was that money's in the fire department already? Did that come from the general fund? Just wondering why the transfer amount is less than the total estimated cost.
We had funds budgeted for design work that was over at the training grounds as well.
Okay.
And so a portion of that went into this particular project. As we replenish these funds, it'll bring some funds back over to finish that over at the training grounds.
Yes, sir. So the training ground itself is actually not a part of the funding that you're transferring over. You'd given us $250,000 in the 2024 budget to build the training ground building. And so the design phase of the training ground building, those monies will actually come out of what you allocated in 2024.
Okay.
That's what I just said.
Yep. I know it's confusing, but that is the way it's laid out.
Any further questions? Any further discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holiday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Our final action item of the evening is an ordinance O-24-30, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Webb. I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance O-24-30, an ordinance authorizing emergency replacement and repair of approximately 400 feet of 30-inch sewer force main at the Davidson Drive wastewater treatment plant by Diamond Construction Company pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated section 14-47-138. That concludes your reading, Mayor, if you would. Entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Director Garcia, seconded by Director Trustee. And the staff report will be provided by Todd Pillar, Engineering Projects Manager. Welcome.
Thank you and good evening. I'll be brief. This is a staff requesting approval to award a purchase order to Diamond Construction for about 400 feet of 30-inch force main. That is from the Stokes facility, currently on Davison Drive. And what happened was they are building our 24-inch finished water line through there, and they uncovered some huge holes in our existing 30-inch line. So we had the collection staff go down and video it, so we know exactly where it's bad. And it's gone in several places, but some places it's just like about 30% on the bottom. And so Diamond's there, and they have all the tools and equipment to do it. And their quote was $271,675. And we have enough money in our board-approved wastewater bond funds to cover the cost.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Pillar? Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. Todd, I did bring this question up at the agenda meeting, and Mr. Monty was very articulate to respond to me, but I want to ask you again, just so that those here tonight and those viewing can hear your response. But the pipe that is considered the replacement pipe that's going in to replace that old pipe, is it a different material than what the pipe currently is? And is the new pipe that's being installed here with the material that is better suited to transport this water and less likely to corrode and so forth?
Yes, Director Webb. The existing pipe is ductile iron, and it's gone, and so we're replacing it with the same 30-inch pipe we're doing on the Gulf of Force Main. Same PVC pipe, same caliber of material. So it'll be a lot better than it is now.
And how many feet are left to the end of this line? Is 700 or 800 yards a pretty accurate description of what's left?
I did not
past what's going to be replaced.
I did not view the footage
It's
from
a good
the.
distance. It's a good distance.
I thought I remembered him saying something like that. Out of what's remaining, have y'all noticed any type of disrepair in that remaining 700 to 800 yards?
No,
Or
sir.
does that look like it's doing okay? Did the cameras go that far when you were
Yeah,
looking?
we went about, I think, 400 feet each way, and we figured out about out of the 800 feet, we need about 400 feet to replace.
Well, 400 feet each way, that ain't gonna get all the way down to 800 yards though, is it?
No.
So, okay. But have you been seeing any signs that there's any kind of leaks on that
No.
other side?
No.
No?
No, sir. I will tell you that, I forget when it was,
It wasn't uncommon, though, many years ago, to have this particular type of pipe to be what was considered the standard at that time.
Ductile iron is.
Right, I mean, it's kind of everywhere.
Still used in the industry.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have had an issue at the plant where we had some scouring and we had to replace a main break there. I'm not sure if it was this particular one or if it was the other, but I think it was this 30-inch that comes into the headworks at the plant that we had that one blowout that we had to
replaced about
fix.
40 feet right there at the headworks splitter box.
But you know, these ductile irons, they scour at different areas depending on where that volume comes into the line. So, you know, we TV'd it, the rest of the line looks good, we don't need to replace that right now. Who's to say in the future we may not have to come back in there? But it's definitely one that we'll continue to watch and be able to monitor.
So, and thank you for that response. How did you know that there was some kind of issue here? This is pipe we're talking about now that's underground, isn't it? I mean, how far underground is it? How did we know, hey, we got a problem right here? What happened to kind of alert city officials?
We were laying a water line.
We're
Oh,
laying
you
a water line.
as you were laying the water line?
So
Yeah.
so the force main has to be at a certain gradient to get to the plant. So Diamond Construction doing the new water line, they had to deepen their 24-inch to go underneath of it. And when they were doing excavation to go underneath of it is when they discovered all these holes in the top.
Okay.
We're just trying to avoid another SSO.
Well, it wasn't hit as a result of the excavation, was
no.
it? By
No, sir.
Diamond? It was already there? Do we have evidence to show that?
Yeah, about 400 feet of it.
Well, I mean, as they were going under it, how do we know that it wasn't hit?
Because they didn't go 400
Oh, the
feet.
damage is on top? Okay.
And they didn't go 400 feet. I mean, they're in one section as they're coming through.
Yeah,
with
they're crossing underneath of it, 90 degrees to it.
Okay.
But when they did that, they exposed the top and found out that we had.
Most of it's still underground, but that's where our camera was able to show us.
It's almost like a brittle decay on the top.
Yeah.
It's not like they busted the pipe or cracked it. It's decay on the top.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
You've seen rusted pipe. It's like that.
Very good. Any further questions of Mr. Pillar? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience want to speak on this issue? Discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Beard.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our last item of the evening is discussion, items for discussion. Any board member have an item for discussion? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to give kudos and thank yous. First, I want to recognize our historic grant writer in planning and development, and the city's new grant writer. I think these are already showing how great additions they are to the city and what they're able to do for all areas of the city. And secondly, I wanted to thank the Hot Springs Police Department. I recently had to file an accident report, and no, it was not my fault. And everyone at the police department was so friendly and cordial and helpful, and especially Officer James Alvarez, who assisted with the actual accident report. I really appreciate all of that as a help in getting things where I could get it to the insurance company. And Mayor, I'm so glad to be back here in person, and sorry that I missed some meetings. I had some medical issues that had to be addressed, and I want to thank everybody for their well wishes and prayers. And it's a lot better to be here than in the hospital, and especially to the prayers and assistance from the Women of Grace and Grace Church. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any other items for discussion? Director Holliday?
Thank you. I wanted to do a shout out to the staff of Hot Springs National Park, and specifically to some ASMSA students. This last weekend was National Public Lands Day, and there were several teams who volunteered to go onto federal land and do a trash pickup. And the team from ASMSA apparently have tried for years and got second place every year, but this year they collected over 2,000 pounds of garbage from the forest. Granted, I think there were about 25 of them in a couple of vans, but still, they took 2,000 pounds of material out of off of our public lands. My little team, we got almost 500 pounds, but I will say we found 19 tires over the course of 2.5 hours. So that was one thing I was going to ask. Hazardous Waste Day is or is not a tire day?
You know, the tire program's changed, so I'll try to get something out on that. I don't want to say, because I mean they're going through changes as we speak with
Right.
DEQ, and we're actually been moved into a different tire district.
Interesting.
But I'll follow up on that and send something out. We'll put it out with a press release if we're able to take tires.
Okay, because now that I've seen them, I see them everywhere. And so if you know, if there's a place we can take them, I think there's a lot of people who would maybe lend a hand if we could figure out what to do. I know it's difficult, but yeah, at one point the kids were actually on the side of Black Snake Road with us as we were rolling tires up the hill out of the ditch, and the kids were rolling them down the road into the truck. It was great. It was a big team effort, but yeah, there was a little over 3,600 pounds of garbage collected in 2.5 hours. So.
Any
I'll get something out
further,
on that.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to give a shout out to somebody who's in this room. Well, quite a few of you who are in this room. You know, we've got a city manager who does a great job at day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month activities. But when, you know, Bill takes off for trainings that are necessary to help him improve and grow within the realm of city manager, and takes along one of the deputy city managers and leaves one of the deputy city managers, it's important that that person be competent enough to continue to maintain the integrity of our city. And so I want to point the spotlight to Deputy City Manager Mr. Denny McFade over there, who did step in last week, and the city of Hot Springs is still standing tall. So, Mr. Denny, I want to commend you on your efforts.
Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. I forgot to mention earlier about the Garland County Habitat for Humanity women's build that's going on right now. They are building 3 houses on a property that we condemned earlier this year because the house on it had burned, partially burned. And so we had condemned the property, but it's over on Tennessee Street, and there are going to be 3 brand new houses there, 3 families whose lives are going to be changed forever because of the work of Habitat for Humanity. Very thankful to all the sponsors, and I think I went by today, there were 30 people from Lowe's who were there. There are going to be 30 people from Weyerhaeuser. I'm not sure what day, but every day is sold out. They can't accommodate more than 30 volunteers a day. And every day from today through Saturday, there are 30 people there to volunteer, plus the regular construction crew. So again, that's just a success story of how we can all work together as a community and make that little acreage on Tennessee Street the home to 3 families who will be very, very appreciative of it. Thank you, sir.
Got the answer to your tires. They will accept tires, 4 per person.
Okay, I'm gonna make some friends.
So you have to get some people.
Wait, per car or per person? Okay, well, just making sure it wasn't like each vehicle could only bring in 4, because, you know, if you fit 3 or 4 people in a truck.
Yeah, you're stretching it.
Hey.
Bring several people.
Okay.
Tires. Thank you.
The tires are getting wobbly here. So Director Garcia, welcome back, and please close the meeting. I assume that's what you're going to do.
With no other comments, I move we adjourn and retire.
We got a second by Director Webb. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Now, we do have a public comment session immediately following, so allow us an opportunity to change our technology over a little bit, and we'll get started shortly.